still trying to gain the upper hand on the wildest fires ever seen here. Bob Serkin, News Center 4, Tuolumne County.
Creating a battle plan to fight the hundreds of fires around the state and coordinate the thousands of...
Up here.
Can't be replaced.
And all activity on the internal or the inside portions of those fires.
4's Ginger Rutland picks...
Firefighters have put up a fight to save the home.
Fire information, can I help you?
The state's Fire Command Center in Sacramento.
300 people living on the outskirts of this small town were told to leave once the fire threatened their homes. The rest of the town is trying to live normally, but they're not having an easy time.
Well, you're afraid to go to sleep at night because you don't know what you're going to wake up to, you know, in the middle of the night.
A lot of noise with all the traffic, people coming to watch the fire and all the trucks and everything.
And if it's not fire trucks and helicopters, there's a lot of smoke. It's aggravating sensitive sinuses and lungs. For a while, children weren't even being allowed to play outside during recess time. Now today, schools not only here in Tuolumne City, but throughout the county are closed because of the smoke. In fact, the noise and smoke alone don't seem to bother people enough to move.
You know, when you're born and raised in a town and worked here most of my life, I want to stay.
No matter what?
No matter what. The only thing I say, if I see the flames come over these mountains, then I'll leave. But otherwise, I won't leave, no.
In Tuolumne City, Sherry Hu, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
We're back live again here in the SONORA at the headquarters, one of the nerve centers, as we mentioned, for the U.S. Forest Service. We have just gotten late word that there have been a number of lightning strikes about 20 miles east of our location, areas where there had not been fires reported. It is believed now that there are a number of fires breaking out in that area. That's an unconfirmed report. We did get it from the Forest Service, but they haven't been able to check it out. We did want to get past that information along to you. One final thought. The first goal in fighting these fires, of course, as we mentioned earlier, is containment. I talked with one Forest Service official today and said, is containment anywhere in sight? And he said, not even in the foreseeable future for anywhere here in this location. Reporting live from Sonora, Jim Bunn reporting. Wendy, back to you.
Okay, Jim, we're looking at days of this. Mac.
California's firefighting capabilities have been plagued by a manpower shortage since the wildfire crisis began, reinforcements being brought in from every part of the country. The job of coordinating the army of almost 13,000 firefighters falls on the California Department of Forestry. Hank Plante is at the CDF command post in Sacramento with an update. Hank?
Mac, what's happening here is that the CDF troops and their supporters are getting a second wind, although I should say that wind is the last thing they need in this battle right now. You just heard Jim Bunn talk about the evacuations in the Tuolumne County fire. With me is Kent Clark, who is really the state's top fireman for the federal government. How bad is that blow-up that we keep hearing about in Tuolumne?
The reports are that it was 20,000 acres in probably less than an hour. That's as rapid a blow-up or a massive erratic fire behavior that I've ever experienced, even though I didn't witness it.
20,000 acres in 1 hour. I understand from talking with the Weather Service people right across the hall that it actually created its own weather pattern when that blew.
You get a violent chain reaction in a convection column. That blows the top of it off and pulls in rapid amounts, massive amounts of oxygen, and that fuels the fire and causes it to spread in all directions.
And you wound up with, I understand, more thunderstorms because of it.
You'll get some thunderstorm activity when you get a cumulus cloud that is that high, but we've had periodic thunderstorms and lightning, well, since Sunday. It's beginning to taper off, but we can expect some high winds to continue following the lightning storms.
And that is not what you need.
We don't need high wind right now.
All right, let's talk about the overall scope here, because we have talked about some specifics, but what people want to know is how bad is this going to get?
It's going to get worse. I would expect that we will exceed probably the greatest acreage total we've had in California was 1977. We burned over 350,000 acres.
Well, we're almost to that right now, Kent.
I would expect we'll pass that tonight, and this could be 400,000 to 500,000 acres. We're looking at another 4 to 5 days of pretty erratic fire behavior, and there isn't really any rain in sight.
All right, thank you very much. You were telling me before it could be the worst that you've seen since 1955. Kent Clark, who is with the U.S. Forestry Department, top fireman for the state of California. We will stay here as long as they are, and reporting live from Sacramento, I'm Hank Plante. Mac, Wendy, back to you.
Thank you, Hank. Some of the nearly 13,000 firefighters now on the lines have come from as far away as Hawaii, Alaska, Maine, and Florida. CDF officials say they've hit the bottom of the barrel nationwide in finding reinforcements and equipment, and they have no idea at this point where they can turn next.
One of the fastest growing fires in the state is in Lassen County. It grew from 1,500 acres last evening to almost 20,000 by late this afternoon. 200 residents of the town of Milford were evacuated last night. The fire has now reached the outskirts of Doyle. That's about 10 miles southeast of Milford. Another 150 people have been evacuated there. David Jackson was in Milford all night watching the flames sweep towards that town, and he joins us now with details of what happened then, and this situation also quickly changing today.
Yeah, changing by the minute. When it was literally a firestorm that was headed down for the town of Milford early this morning. It was coming down through bone dry forest, moving incredibly fast. Residents there formed a human barrier between their homes and this fire. Working with shovels and the help of some, but not much, firefighting equipment, they did manage to save their property. Winds of 50 miles an hour drove towering flames toward the town of Milford this morning. The fire in the Plumas National Forest smoldered in unpopulated areas for nearly a week before fanning to life today and sweeping out of the mountains behind the tiny Lassen County community.
For 5 days now, this big fire has raged on the west side of Milford, but the entire time the wind was blowing from the east, moving this fire away from town. Only in the last few hours has it shifted to a strong breeze coming from the north and blowing the entire blaze down toward the city itself.
Nan Henderson lives on the western edge of Milford. Nervously, she and several firefighters watched the blaze pushing closer to town.
They understand that it's their home. Actually, it's my parents' home. They lived here for 20 years, and they want us to, they said we can stay here as long as possible. When our lives are in danger, they want us out of here or they will carry us out.
Bulldozers plowed a fire line between Henderson's property and the blaze. Other neighbors tried to fight back hotspots as embers sailed over the fire lines. Melvin Forbes battled single-handedly with a shovel, but he was furious at the Forest Service for what he thought was negligence in letting this blaze get so big.
The forestry around here knows that the wind in these hills have 7 to 8 different channels. They know they got to be prepared for that. And if they don't know that, then they should get the hell off the damn forestry and get somebody in there that knows how to take care of these hills.
Others agreed with Forbes, saying a 600-acre fire should never have erupted into an 8,000-acre firestorm, threatening an entire town. Some of the angry neighbors called in county supervisors demanding an explanation, and they got one.
The problem is the Forest Service didn't have people. We've got too many fires in the state. They have a lot of spot fires when you have a big fire. Sometimes they have to assess them before they can get to them to determine what to do.
So you're saying they were doing all they could?
I believe they were.
The skeleton firefighting crews did hose down any buildings threatened by the fire, and their fire lines held. No property was lost. Realistically, it was all 500 men could do, because reinforcements were still hours away. The dense smoke prevented any aerial drops, and there are only so many firefighters in the country. With nearly 1,000 fires like this raging across the state, almost every available hand is already at work somewhere else. This afternoon, before leaving Milford, we took a look at the damage from the fire nearest to the town, and you will see how lucky that town was. Burned out brush and trees right along the edge of Milford, but again, no buildings were damaged. The blaze went, as you see right there.